Wasn't Maui in the lineup, and then what went wrong with Burns tonight?
From what I know, and I'll go in there right after this, see what our assessment is for tomorrow. He's been kind of fighting some discomfort. I mentioned on the television broadcast there was a play last night that I thought he would make, and then it was kind of a, oh yeah, he's not moving as well as he can. And tonight it kind of reached a breaking point. I don't know if the weather or the grind of the last few days of him battling through that got to him. But I just got word that he was a no-go and needed to switch things on the fly. So I kind of got to it as fast as I can. Something, I don't want to say back and be wrong, but something on the backside of his body. And then for Burns, the first inning was, I hate to focus on one area, but it's just kind of what pops into my mind. The first inning was tough. I think there's 2 walks in there. Shook to a pitch that maybe we'd all like to redo, but you can't go back in time and do it. And of course, we all know my theory. If the guy, gets underneath it a little bit and it's the 3rd out of the inning, or C. Scott makes a phenomenal play or something like that, maybe we're not even talking about it and he cruises. But, frustration for him as well as us on the outing.
What's the key for him to kind of put these last 4 weeks in the rear view and get it going down the back half of the SEC?
I think stay true to your roots. I'm just going off the cuff, but stay true to your roots. A lot of times, when guys have success and then it gets derailed at some point, whether it be during their college career or a guy you watch in the big leagues, there's extra problems that are created, and it's almost kind of you could kind of trim the fat type of thing and get back to who you are and what got you in that position that you're in, like starting, on an SEC weekend. So maybe getting back to it, something individually for him, or maybe he and Coach A hook up on something, but I know they've had discussions. That's my gut answer, is stay true to your roots.
How would you assess what Bryce was able to give you there?
It was awesome, and we anticipated that he would serve as a major factor for us, kind of like he's done this weekend. I mean, you come in and get Rivera out, and then on top of it, he does what he did tonight. It's really, really good. And I think, he just needed to get his cleats in the ground and get some repetitions at the Division I level to feel comfortable, because you could kind of see it first outing out in Arizona, a couple other times. I wouldn't say anxious, but not as smooth as he had been in the scrimmages. Tonight, even last night, kind of had that smooth, calm approach. Looks like an athlete out there, like he is. He'll tell you he's a superstar basketball player, even though he's not. And obviously the stuff is good enough to do a lot of things.
That was a quick turnaround, but what went into giving Kendra the start, and how important was it to get Tears back out there?
Yeah, it was real quick, and he and Jazzy, I think, are our 2 guys that are options on the infield. They can play all 3 of those positions well, and they're probably pretty equal at what they do as well. Kendro has hit righties a little bit better than Jazzy in the past, so that's what we look to do. And then thought about utilizing Jasloff, but was waiting for the right time, with lefties. So we'll see. Both those guys can play those positions. Simo can play shortstop. We've moved around guys, a bunch in scrimmages.
With Chase, do you feel like he's lacking confidence at all?
Wouldn't be able to speak intelligently. I don't see anything that would make me, knee-jerk answer that one yes. Again, I think probably frustration. It seems like all the breaks are going against you when it's not going well. I didn't get this call. We could have made this play. We could have scored more runs, whatever it might be. You start looking at those things, and maybe that feeds into my last answer about creating the problem that's not a problem. And again, I'm just standing here on turf giving you my best answers, but we all know what the guy's capable of doing, and if I find the recipe, I'll give it to him, but probably ultimately up to him and his teammates, on game day, getting back to his roots and doing what he's capable, not trying to do more, not trying to do less. And when things get going, I think the frustrations can pile up, not just for him, but for everybody, and you can't do that. There's things I'm frustrated about from yesterday, but going into today's game, you got to just focus on doing the best you can. That's what we're all trying to do, hopefully.
And I'm sure you'd rather the offense not get affected by the pitching on the other side, but when the starting pitchers that y'all have are not getting off to the starts that they usually do, can that just kind of put things off for a team? Can that kind of get guys out of their element offensively, or just put things on the wrong track?
Yeah, I don't want to take away from the two guys that I don't know how high they can go. It's not my job, but the two guys they've had on the mound have thrown the ball very well for themselves. So late in the game, it might be a little bit because now you got to play strategy, and the guys coming out of the bullpen can let her rip. But they've had two really good starting pitchers throw great against us, and I think just big picture, any baseball team I've been a part of, and then this one in particular, yeah, if you're not scoring, the pitchers can start to try and be a little too perfect. And if the defense doesn't make a play, same thing. And then it's all the same thing. But you have to kind of take a deep breath. And again, you let the frustrations pile up, you're actually going to create more than actually exist. So you got to understand, defense helps offense, offense helps defense, like that in basketball. Our team's best offense was probably their defense at times. So it all kinds of feeds each other, and I don't have an educated way of saying it right now. I mean, other than, Happy Gilmore, feeling the flow, riding the bull. When you're doing that, everybody's working together, and certainly some guys are going to make some mistakes. But if you point out the mistakes and now I got to hit a 2-run homer because we just gave up a run, or I got to strike this guy out because we didn't score the run from third last inning, that's a recipe for a loss, is what that is. But when you got guys that are just forging ahead, moving on to whatever the next task is, and actually get excited about maybe helping their teammate out in whatever way that is, digging down deep, making a pitch, or keeping a ball in front, even though this pitcher's giving up a bunch of lasers, that's a recipe for success.
How great was it to get Griffin in there and get an at-bat, see him get a single, and maybe try to get things going?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, he's an older guy, and he's a hard worker here in the cage, so you'd be happy in general, but I would say the way in which it came, where he shot a ball hard through the middle, and I don't care where he gets his hits, but last time I was in here and you guys asked me about him, he'd been pulling off pitches, and to shoot a ball through the middle like that means his direction was pretty good. And he's fully capable, just like Book was coming off the bench and having the swing that he did, when they are true to their roots. And you get outside of that, you try and do more, or you try and take on the task, but you also want to attack 3 or 4 additional problems, recipe for a loss.
What was Waldron doing well out there on the mound, and do you feel like you guys failed to make an adjustment over the course of the game?
I don't necessarily know that guys failed to do that. There was one inning where he kind of breezed through everybody, and guys were, bantering back and forth with, trying to get set or whatever. That just seemed to fire him up. That was his one inning where he just kind of blew through our 3 guys. The rest was competitive at-bats, chances to do something against him. But I think by now everyone that knows him in the league, the splitty's the key. And it's one of those where if you're in the stands, you're like, why would you swing at that pitch? But if you're in the batter's box, it's a little bit different. So as hard as the guy can throw, and certainly the breaking balls he throws are SEC quality, or whatever you want to term them, the deal breaker is kind of the split finger, and that not only is a tough pitch to lay off, it's a big chase pitch, but it makes the other ones better because it is in the back of your mind as a hitter.
You've had a lot of guys in the bullpen that have starting experience. What would it take maybe for one of those guys to have an opportunity? Are you comfortable, I guess, still with the 3 you're rolling with on the weekend?
No, it would take tonight is what it would take. But yeah, those guys are capable. So, who do you want to move around? How do you want to do it? And that's a question for down the road. I like the composure we have, the strikes we have tomorrow, the athlete, the teammate, and the character we have as a person. I like him in the first inning tomorrow. And I also like the fact, we pulled Lindsey out of the game for a reason. Bryce, as well as he threw the ball, he's burnt. But otherwise, I think everyone that's not a starting pitcher is available tomorrow behind him as well. So I like that equation. And then we'll figure out which other ones we need to figure out a whole bunch after tomorrow.
Strikeout numbers a little high the past 2 games. What do you think is the result of that?
Yeah, I mean, you're in the men's league, so the strikeout numbers are going to be high. So I'm just teasing with you. I don't give a rip about that number in particular. The number that's too high is the non-competitive at bat, and the non-competitive last pitch of the at bat is the way to say it. And trust me, you ain't standing in there wearing a Tennessee uniform or a Florida uniform and you're not trying. But try hard and you die hard. I can't quote the guy that says that in a rap because it'll turn political on you. But you know, I tried hard like no other, and hopefully my stats aren't on the internet. So get in the box and compete. And locking up with 2 strikes ain't an option. And we've done that. So that's what you're pointing out. And if you're on TV and you're wearing orange and you're angry at me or the players, it's those ones. Guy gets you, Splitty's real good, something like that. I ain't going to say tip your cap, but that might be part of the baseball game. What can't be a part of the baseball game, or is not an option, is locking up and having everybody in the dugout just as frustrated as the fans or you or the coaching staff.